Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ahad Raza, and today we're going to go over some movement-related tips. If you haven't checked out Jonathan Power's fantastic playlist on movement, I would highly recommend you do that. Today we're going to talk about the various types of movement, so whether you move open stance or closed stance, and we're going to talk about efficiency. So what is open stance and what is closed stance? If I'm a right-handed player, if I'm moving into the right side of the court, anytime I step with my left leg going onto my forehand, that's called closed stance. Anytime I step with my right leg, it's called open stance. Traditionally, people were moving into many parts of the court on their forehand in closed stance and many parts on the backhand in closed stance. Nowadays, in the modern game, a lot of players are attacking different areas in open stance because it makes it a little bit easier to pick up the ball, especially in the middle of the court, and it helps with the recovery. So for instance, an open stance movement into the mid-court would look something like this. I'm just stepping on my right leg and then coming back. Whereas a closed stance movement, I would have to rotate my body, go around and come back. It's a little bit less efficient, which is why most pros will make open stance movement in the mid-court. If you have a ton of time, you'll see players coming in closed stance on the backhand and occasionally closed stance on the forehand. What that really does is it allows you to use your body to hide the ball. So if I'm playing a closed stance drop on the forehand, I can kind of cover the ball if I take it out in front of me. So if my opponent's on the tee, it hides the ball. And the same thing on the backhand. If I come in here, I can hide the ball and take it out in front and block my opponent's vision a little bit. So less pressure. If you want to block the ball with your body, closed stance is helpful. Generally speaking, anytime you want to take the ball early, it's just open stance. You can stretch, reach, and then push back and you're on the tee. If you go closed, you have to rotate all the way around, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So I would say practice both, and then let your body decide which one makes more sense given the scenario. So let me give you an example of some open stance movement over here. If I'm moving into the front left, I'm gonna just go with my left leg, come back, front right, right leg, come back. And let's tie in that concept of efficiency for a second. Now, you don't have, everyone's dimensions are different. So some people might say you need to get there in 3 steps. You should get across the middle of the court in 2 steps. I mean, an 11-year-old is going to be different from a 6'4" player, right? So what I would encourage you to think about here is, can you get there without too many random movements is essentially it. So you don't want to be wasting energy and running with a ton of small steps, but at the same time, you probably don't want to be like bounding forward because then you're also going to have a tough time being balanced. So you have to think about what makes sense for your body type. So in my case, if you remember we talked about the split step last time, if I'm here on the tee, once I split, it's 1, 2, 3, and I can cover most of the front court. Depending on the angle of the ball, there are many angles, obviously. I might take a little shuffle and a lunge, or I might even go close stance sometimes over here, because if I want to cut off the ball here, it makes more sense to go close stance. I might do a little shuffle and a lunge if I'm slightly off balance, but you get the point. The point is that there are many angles and areas on the court, and you need to have trained and be comfortable in both open and closed stance, so I would highly recommend it. The one spot that you don't necessarily want to go close stance too often is the back right corner of the court, because it just takes a lot of time to then rotate and pop back. And what I just did is a mistake that a lot of people make. So they go here, and then once they hit, they bring their other foot behind and they come forward. So anytime you go close stance in the back, you have to make sure that once you hit, you almost want to have a pivot step. So this back leg becomes your pivot step, and then you're back on the tee pretty efficiently. Now that obviously takes a fair bit of strength, so that's another thing you're gonna have to practice. So if I'm going into the back right, I'm gonna be here, and then I have my pivot step to come forward. Something else you can practice. I hope you enjoyed today's tips. Really emphasize practicing both open and closed stance, especially when you do ghosting. It also helps with body balance. Most people go on their dominant leg way too often, and then end up getting overuse injuries. So keep that in mind. And don't worry as much about having to get to a particular point in court. in 1 step or 2 steps or 3 steps. Just don't overextend yourself and be off balance, and don't take too many small little running steps when you're moving. Do what makes sense based on your body's dimensions, but just get comfortable moving to all positions on court with either foot, and you're gonna be in a good spot. All right, folks, take care. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment if you have a question, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.